May 1st, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is a pretty interesting, kind of a busy day. You can see where my cursor is. This is about 11 o'clock Pacific Standard. This is when the FOMC rate decision came out, and it was, as everybody expected, no rate hike, but it caused quite a bit of choppiness. And then at 11:30 Pacific Standard, right about right here, this is when Fed Chair Jerome Powell came out and started speaking. It caused this big oscillation, takes Q&As, and depending on how the market interprets it, it looked like it rallied hard. But what's really interesting is I'm just going to draw this 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time right here. So up until this point, trading was very, very slow because this is from 6:30 to 11 o'clock. So that's a clear 3.5 hours. And then from 11 o'clock all the way to 1 o'clock is another 3 hours. So you can see that this is all the price action that happened in 3.5 hours. And then from here to the close, it would be like 3 p.m. Eastern Standard. This is 3 hours of trading. So you can tell there's a lot more price action over here, except I didn't see very many setups on this side. And I saw a few on this side. I took a total of 2 trades, and I was profitable on both. One of them definitely was more aggressive. And there was also economic data that came out at around 5:15 Pacific Standard, which is about in the pre-market right here, is the ADP non-farm payroll. And it doesn't really matter because I wasn't around to trade that. And at 6:45, which is about right here, there was the final manufacturing PMI. And then again at 7 o'clock right here was the ISM manufacturing PMI and the job openings. So pretty much this area right here wasn't a very safe time to trade. And then the big mover was at 11 o'clock, which is the FOMC rate decision. You can see that there's this big oscillation right here. And then when Fed Chairman Powell comes out to speak. So I'm going to go into the trades right now. As with any FOMC day, it usually starts off pretty slow and quiet because a lot of traders are just sitting on the sidelines because they know today is going to be rather volatile and nobody wants to get caught out or caught in the trade. But in the pre-market, it looked like it made 2 legs up, 1 leg down, and then it pushed up. So even though it looks like it might be range bound, I knew at around 11 o'clock and 11:30 Pacific Standard, things would get probably pretty wild. So this is the 5:15. Let's see, right about right here. That's the ADP non-farm employment change. And well, it didn't really look like it moved the market. Then the market opens, it starts moving, and I think there's some kind of resistance here. It moves up in this yellow up channel, breaks out, but it breaks out sideways. And you could argue that it's tested the highs, but now it's just looking like it's range bound. EMA is acting as a lower bound at the moment. Pops through, hits here. I'm wondering if there's going to be a bounce. It breaks through and it starts moving down. This is about right 6:45. That's when the final manufacturing PMI comes out. As you can see, the market doesn't really react to it all that much. It's really choppy and sideways here. There's no real good clean setup I can find. I mean, there are second entries, but there's always second entries all over the chart. It just depends on whether it's a high probability with good context second entry. Then prices move down on this. And then you see right here, this big green candle. That's when the ISM manufacturing and the job openings report came out. It looked like it caused this big bounce. And I do see a new low here. It's a first entry short pullback. It's a second entry short. It's confirmed second entry short. Now, I didn't really mark it, but as a possible trade because it looked like it was pretty sideways at the moment. You do have a new low, first entry short, second entry short. It's a break of this yellow orange down channel. The thing is, I didn't really like this orange down channel. It didn't fit quite that well. It kind of fit at the bottom, kind of fit at the top. Overall, it's pretty noisy. This is only 3 minutes after the report came out, the ISM manufacturing PMI. So I decided just to leave it alone unless I saw kind of a more confirmed setup. So you do have a second entry short here. It's confirmed. It is closing right at the EMA, so it was a little iffy. Looked like if you took it, it would have worked. Now it looks like it's trading within this trading range. It kind of respects the bottom of this trading range. It bounces, keeps oscillating. It's just very noisy right here. continues to be noisy, and I notice it doesn't come back down and test the lows. It starts moving up, and I actually saw this setup. A second entry short, because you do have technically have a new low here. It's a first entry short pullback. It's a very nice, strong second entry short, and I did have this as a potential support. I actually didn't have it dragged out this far. It's something right here. Because I liked that it touched once, twice, three times. I thought it was a triple test. It's a pretty strong signal bar because it moved all the way up, and then it took it all back and closed at the low end. So I thought this was a possible trade. If you're not playing range rules, you could say it's a second entry short. Even if you are playing the range rules, it looks like there is two legs up from down here, one leg, measure leg up, pull back, second measure leg. So you had like three key entry points, a triple test, second entry short, and a measure, excuse me, and a measure move was made. You're not really concerned about the EMA because it is flattening out. So I think this was possibly a pretty decent trade I've tried. Looked like it would have been good enough for that quick scalp. The only downside is these candles are getting rather large. It's like a 3.5 point candle. But the way prices were moving today, I think it would have been okay to take that risk, especially when the FOMC rate decision and Fed Chair Powell came out. Then prices were just moving very quickly. So it is higher risk, but if the setup is clean, then I don't think you'd have to be too concerned. Then I drew this red up channel because it looked like it red trend line going up. It looked like it met it pretty well. And so this is actually where I take my first trade. Now it's a little bit riskier, I'll admit, but I did believe I was in this trading range and it respected the lows pretty well. There are some wicks down here and it respected the highs pretty well. When I saw this as a potential failed breakout, technically you have a new low. Here's a first entry short, second entry short. You could say the count has reset and you have a first entry short, second entry short, and it looked like the second entry short might fail, but it came right back down. And I will admit it was a little bit, I had to kind of move this around to see if I could get this to touch, but I could never get it to cleanly contact this top resistance. But I figured that this is a failed breakout of this trading range and it's probably moving back into this trading range. So when it actually opened and broke, it went down and I entered right when it one tick below. Actually, I think I got a little bit of slippages. Actually, yeah, actually one tick below, and I was able to get a quick scalp. And that's all I wanted because I didn't want to risk potentially hitting the EMA and having some kind of bounce. But I was thinking it would come back down to test the lows of this red down channel. But I was happy with the 1 point profit. And it looks like it really did push down. So if I went for the full 2 points or more, I probably would have been safe. You can see there's two orders here. It's because part of my contracts are filled here. And then it opened, oscillated, and then it filled the other part of the contract. I will admit that once it filled partially and it opened up here, I was thinking maybe I should just get out, break even with the rest of the contracts, but I left it there in place, just trusting the read, and it was able to get my full position out right here. So it bounces, so I'm trusting this red up channel pretty much now because it looks like it's respected at the lows. Comes up to the highs, so I like the position of this top of this red up channel, the resistance. Goes back down, and it breaks out and goes through. Now it's moving clearly back into this trading range, and I'm wondering if it's going to make it to the lows here and have a similar breakout symmetric to this one. You do have a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long, but there's no clean setup. To break this orange channel, test the lows, and it does break to the bottom. At this point, I did notice, although I have this blue trading range, I noticed there was some kind of triple test right here. So I dabbled with the idea that potentially the trading range could be the high here with the lows down here, even though there was some respect paid earlier here. Then prices started to move up on this yellow up channel. I saw this as a new low. It's a first entry short pullback. You have a second entry short right here that immediately failed, moves up, and I thought I saw a higher low, and I thought this higher low is confirming the second entry short failure. It's a break of this yellow channel right here. It pushed up, and I'm thinking there could be a second attempt to push up. It is a little bit riskier, more aggressive because the high is already right here. So there is just, well, there's only 3 ticks to get out. So definitely it is a little riskier. Actually, let me take that back. Yeah, there's only 3 ticks to get out. It looks like it would have worked though. And then it's a clear break of this yellow up channel, test the new high. It's hitting this potential, some kind of resistance here. I didn't put this blue line in just yet, but I was aware that there could be some kind of resistance up here. It was flashing back down. To break this orange channel, test makes a new low, also breaks down. And this is where I tried to take a trade, but I missed. So what we have going on here is in this blue channel, it was respecting it pretty well, but then it broke out. And at the time, I thought, okay, there's some kind of resistance right here because it had trouble here, had some trouble, had a fail breakout up here. And then here, it looked like, it did break out a few ticks and then came back down. So I'm thinking the trading range could be this low here with this high up here. And what I saw was, I liked that it was a new high here. It's a first entry long pullback, it creates a second entry long. What I really liked about this trade was I noticed it opened. It looked like it was going to continue the sell-off. It moves one tick down and then reverses very strongly back up. And it closed at the high. So I'm thinking this is a potential fail breakout or, kind of a minor fail breakout, but it is bouncing off the support here. So I said I wanted to get in on this trade, but I want to try to reduce my risk as much as possible because I see that there's still potential that this could be a resistance that was previously a support, but I wasn't too concerned, but I still want to be conservative and just get 1 point. So I actually entered, well, I tried to enter, I put my order one tick above this original signal bar. So this is at 50, 45, 25. I wanted to enter at 50, 45, 50. Typically, if you really trust a trade in your read, you just enter at the highs of this candle or one tick above, but I'm just trying to scalp out or, be more conservative, more optimistic. So this is where my entry was. And as you can see, it opens and then moves without me. As soon as it flashes up this high, I knew the trade had gone without me. I would cancel the order because I don't want this next candle to flash down or, fool me and then, continue trap me. So I left it alone unless it was going to be a lower high. But it almost creates a higher low. If this candle had ticked one tick below and then moved back up, then I would have felt confident entering. Unfortunately, you don't get that. So this trade was a missed trade. I thought it was actually a very nice trade because it failed breakout, first entry long, pullback, second entry long, break of this orange channel, tested, made a new low, bouncing off of potential support, and then I just, was too greedy. If I had just kept it even at the highs of this candle, it's debatable whether I would have got filled, but if I kept it one tick, then I definitely would have gotten filled, gotten the scalp, and gotten out. But I only kept it one tick above this guy, which was a little ambitious, trying to, squeeze as much juice out of this rock. Prices then move up. Here, this sub range comes back into play, so I'm wondering if this is going to act as a resistance. You do have a new high, first entry long, second entry long. There's no clean second entry long. Signal bars are terrible. Continues chopping, and it kind of starts moving downward, but this is very, very noisy trading. I don't like any of this price action because there's just small bodies, big wicks. And even my channel that I found doesn't fit that clean. So even if you're playing this and you saw a fail breakout here, a potential fail breakout, I don't know that I like this setup all that much. So I decided just to wait for better price action. Prices then move up. I saw a new low here. You have a first entry short, pull back, second entry short. The second entry short I thought was potentially a decent trade because it looks like it's two legs up, breaking this yellow channel up, hit the confirmed resistance of this potentially larger trading range. It's a really nice signal bar. There's enough room to make it down to the lows, and it looked like it made two clean measured legs up. There was potentially a trade there. Unfortunately, I didn't jump on it, and it flashed down. So this looked like a pretty awesome move that you would have definitely gotten at least 1, 2, 3 points off of. The first entry long, pullback, second entry long is a decent signal bar, but I just don't like that it's no body. And I just came from a fail breakout at the top, so I'm thinking prices are going to move back down. So I saw this as one leg down, 2 attempts up, and I'm expecting another leg down to test the lows of this sub trading range or potentially the lows of the bigger trading range. So I'm a little unclear, so I left it alone. And this is also right when the FOMC rate decision comes out. So this, let's say the FOMC rate decision wasn't going to come out, this is just a regular day, I would still just be sitting here waiting to see exactly what happened. And it flashes up, chops around. This is still within the first minute. It creates one leg up, pull back, another leg up, almost pretty much a measured move. Pull back, it creates a first entry long, pushes back, and this is where I take my second trade. So I saw this as a first entry long, pullback, second entry long. Now I'm going to admit this second trade is a little more risky because it happened very shortly after the FOMC rate decision came out. What I did like about this was, excuse me, EMA is holding. Yes, there's some violations over here. EMA is holding. I have two key entry points. I saw first entry long, pullback, second entry long. I have a new low, first entry short, pullback, second entry short, failure. So what I saw was when this candle was forming, and it was happening really quickly, it opened, it flashed, it looked like it was going to trap anybody going short, potentially going back into this larger trading range off of this guy and this guy. But what I did notice is it's making higher lows every time. Although it made two clean legs up, I'm thinking it's probably a failed breakout pullback. So I watched and this actually flashed above, and I thought the way it was moving, there's enough for a quick scalp. So I actually put my order at the highs of this terrible second entry long signal bar in hopes that it would have enough momentum to get one quick trade out of one quick point, and I was able to. So I was able to get out, and it closed at the high. So it is admittedly a more riskier trade because this is a very large candle. This is a 5 1/4 candle. Looks like if you went for 2 points, you would have been okay, but it's hard to say because when the FOMC rate decision comes out, you want to kind of not be trading that soon. But I had a hunch about this trade, and so I went ahead and took it. Not something I would always, trust on, but today it just looked like there was enough momentum. It was breaking out of this trading range. Comes back in. This is still kind of next 15 minutes. So the next market mover is going to be when Fed Chairman Powell comes out and adds some color. So it looks like it's breaking out of this pre-market highs and pre-market lows. Unfortunately, there's no clean trades that I could find to set up. It creates a new high. It creates a first entry long, creates a second entry long. So it's a break of this orange down channel. Made one attempt up. I'm expecting a pullback and maybe a second attempt up. Ideally, what I'd like to see is this break needs to test its low. So it made one attempt up. I'm hoping it creates a second leg down, but breaks and then pushes a second attempt up, closes below the EMA, and then it continues. So it's like a first entry short, and I'm hoping for a second entry short, but this is also a first entry long, second entry long, potential second entry long failure. But it doesn't happen. It just kind of keeps going. So I abandoned all ideas of any kind of short setup. Makes a double top here. Starts moving down on this orange down channel. It's a new high. It's a first entry long, second entry long. It's a good signal bar for second entry long. Unfortunately, it's within this orange down channel, and it didn't really have a break, so it's just kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's a true second entry long, but excuse me, it's actually a third entry long. First entry long, second entry long, third entry long. So there's no real trade here, no real safe trade. Prices move up, continues. I drew this supporting trend line going up. Actually had this a little tighter here. And I was playing with it to try to have this touch and this touch, but it could never quite get it there. Prices then continue moving up. Unfortunately, there was no clean way for me to enter on any of this. And so you just had to watch this gigantic move without you. There's a new high here. It's a first entry long pullback. Now I thought this might have been a possible trade. It's a bounce confirmation of this yellow up channel. There's enough room to scalp out. It's a really good signal bar. The one thing I really wanted was it to touch and bounce off the EMA, but it's a relatively decent candle. It just felt a little more aggressive. It's enough for a scalp. It looks like you would have probably gotten the scalp on this next candle here, because this next candle from the highs here to the highs here is about 7 ticks, so it would have been enough for 1 point. Keeps moving up, breaks out of this yellow up channel, makes one attempt up, pull back, starting to make a second attempt up. The downtrend of this orange has broke and tested the low. So I'm thinking the downtrend of this orange has played out, but I want to see the move above the EMA. So it's a first entry long, second entry long. I want a higher low above the EMA. And you don't get it. You technically have a higher low here. So you could make an argument for a trade here, but I wanted it closer to the setup. Looks like it would have worked though. I do see a new high here. It's a first entry long pullback. You technically have a second entry long here. It's coming from also a potential triple test. The thing that made me a little weary is this yellow uptrend has tested its high now. There was this orange uptrend and it made one attempt up. It could be making a second attempt up. The problem with the second attempt up is it's already pressing toward the very highs of the day. On top of that, this signal bar is really great, but when you're waiting and you're watching, this trigger bar isn't very encouraging. But the EMA is acting as support, so it is a possible trade, but I just didn't like the overall context. But it looked like it would have worked for a quick scalp. Keeps pushing up. It's the last hour, and it starts selling off. There's a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. There's no good signal bar for a second entry long here. There's a new low, first entry short, second entry short. You have a second entry short. This isn't a good signal bar to go short on. Plus, the overall context up until now has been very strong, so you don't want to be counter trend trading. You could make the argument that it's one leg down, two attempts up, and it could start a second leg down, but it is a little ambiguous for me, so I left it alone. But if you did try to go short, it looked like it would have gotten stopped out. Prices then continue chopping. It kind of falls into this consolidation area. Then it flashes down and it starts this big sell-off. It's far from the EMA. It makes one attempt back up. I do draw this trend line down channel. It doesn't last very long, so this wasn't very useful. Prices then move up. It's a new low, first entry short. Technically, I have a second entry short here. This is a terrible signal bar. There is enough room to the EMA. You did have a yellow up channel break and one attempt at the high, which it achieved. So you could make the argument to go short here, but I didn't really feel too enthusiastic about this because I already had two trades today. One of them, admittedly, was a little more aggressive. It's shortly after the rate decision. So I didn't want to give and potentially lose any of my profits or even give back more than I already gained. But it looked like it would have worked for a short trade. Then here, I'm hoping for a push up and a lower high than I probably would have wanted to take the trade. Unfortunately, the lower high never shows up. You get a lower high here, but it's too far from the EMA, too far from the setup. The trade's already been made. Plus, if you did try to go low, try to go short here, you're potentially running into an area that previously had some support. It moves down, pushes back up. You have a new low, first entry short, actually just right here. And it continues back down. No clean trades. And this is getting toward the last 30 minutes of the day where things could get a little bit more choppy. You do have a new low here. It's first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short here, but it's too far from the EMA, already too close to the lows. It hits and it starts moving within this trading range, and it breaks out, continues down. Now it's moving back into the pre-market highs. And what's really interesting is it was pretty much sideways price action. It had this very big spike, and then it came right back down. So it's almost like it flew into the air like a rocket, and it's coming crashing back down. And I'm expecting prices to just end up in this pre-market zone. But it's also the last 10 minutes, so I'm not really ambitiously looking for a trade. And it just gets very noisy, especially with all these candles printed in the last 10 minutes. The last 10 minutes starts from here and ends over here. So there's like over 30 candles here. And they're not even very clean setups. So then prices just move into the close. So kind of an interesting day. It wasn't easiest trading, but I didn't think it was the most difficult. Definitely there was some slow price action toward the beginning where it's just sideways. And then unfortunately these big moves I wasn't able to find any clean, safe entries because if you were able to get in on any of these, it would have been glorious, especially if you were trading with runners. You could have just kind of followed the runner up all the way up, and then even if you found a short here, you could follow the runner all the way down. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that, but I did still get 2 trades in on a rather volatile day. So hopefully that was helpful.